Brodes Media.
Hey everyone, a few things before we get started. Make sure you go over to TikTok. Follow me at Brodes Media. We talk sports there every single day. You will not want to miss it. Follow me on Twitter at Brodes81. That's my personal. And at Brodes Media. That is our company accounts. Lastly, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button and also hit that thumbs up button as well. It would really mean the world to me. And with that being said, enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I have a lot to get off my chest today after this 8-3 loss to the Chicago Cubs. And it all starts with Zack Wheeler's performance. And I'm not saying I'm blaming him fully on the loss. I'm saying a lot of my conversation and the context that I want to dive into stems from him and his outing. Now, in the beginning of this game, in the first inning, Didi Gregorius makes a horrendous play at shortstop, which kept the inning alive, and I truly do believe that that was game-changing. I know that there's a ton of outs to talk about and a ton of other things that were a problem in this baseball game, but when you think about the start of a game with your guy on the bump, you're giving the Chicago Cubs life early by giving him another out. Not only that, the pitch count rises. So if you're talking about that sixth inning when Zack Wheeler ended up getting pulled, well, maybe he's not sitting at 97 pitches if you're not forcing your starter to have to get 4 outs in the first. And now the Cubs are scoring 3 runs early, which after losing 11 straight games, you would think that that would be the best feeling in the world. Just enough confidence to carry momentum forward. And that's exactly what ultimately happened. So shame on Didi Gregorius. That's something we've seen with this team a bajillion times. It's the poor defense, and the poor defense crushes them once again. Now, where I get the most fired up is this whole dialogue about unlucky hits. And I was going back and forth with a bunch of individuals on social media during the game because I just don't understand this narrative that these hits are unlucky. Why are they unlucky? You're totally discrediting the value of what the hitters are doing. What you're saying is they're doing nothing. They're not doing anything. It's actually all luck. No, it's not. I've heard so many horrendous takes. I heard that, well, he's not squaring up the baseball properly. If you don't square up the baseball properly, you don't deserve to get a hit. In what universe is any hit not valuable unless it's perfectly squared up? That's a horrendous take, and that just dives deeper into where we are in today's era of baseball, where if it's not a home run, then it doesn't count. If it's not a double in the gap with high exit velocity, then it doesn't mean anything at all. That's totally unfair. Now, Zack Wheeler was not his sharpest form. There were times where he made nice pitches, though, when it jammed the hitters and there was a broken bat involved or the hitter put a nice piece of hit. But there's a difference to me when there's one blooper and then there's 5, 6, 7 singles nonstop, hitter after hitter after hitter after hitter after hitter. That means there's a trend. That means they have figured something out with Zack Wheeler and they're constantly getting the bat on the ball. So if Zack Wheeler, and he was not perfect every pitch, he was not locating the best Zack Wheeler that we've seen. Like, Zack Wheeler's ability to locate pitches is significantly stronger than what he put on display in this effort. But my point is this: even if he was perfect and these guys are still putting the bat on the ball and putting the ball in front of the infield or in front of the outfielders and behind the infielders and placing it perfectly, well, I mean, you got to give these hitters credit. It's not all luck. It's not, well, he's just getting unlucky. What upsets me is this. If it was Vince Velasquez or Zach Eflin, well, then, Zach Eflin. Geez, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place here. If it was Vince Velasquez or Matt Moore, the conversation would be what? Oh, my God, these guys stink. If it was the Phillies who were getting these hits, hey, good piece of hitting, fellas. Just find a way. Yet if it's Aaron Nola or Zack Wheeler, it's not fair to criticize them. Oh, it is. Oh, it is. And I love Zack Wheeler, but these hits were nice hits. These hits were valuable hits. Score runs. I don't care if you score a run with a couple walks and a homer, a couple solo shots back to back to back, or if it's single. Score runs. I don't know why we have to make excuses. Well, I mean, it was kind of a blooper. Who cares? Who cares? You're down 5-0. It goes right back to with Aaron Nola a couple games ago. He had a couple run lead. He ended up allowing a few hits in a row. Single, and nobody wanted to blame Aaron Nola because they weren't the strongest hits in the world. They lost the lead! They had the lead. They lost the lead. What's important in this game? Scoring runs. In that game, Aaron Nola allowed 9 hits and 7 earned runs. Somebody tell me that those singles did not mean anything. Of course they did. So why do we have to make up these excuses and pretend like the hitters weren't doing anything important? Now singles don't mean anything. I just don't understand that at all. You're down 5-0, and somehow in our brain, we need to come up with this mess that, well, I mean, those 5 runs don't matter as much because they all happen through the single. What are we doing here? The Cubs made nice plays at the plate. They put the ball in play against a pitcher that's going to the All-Star game. Just blows my mind. It really does. By the way, you probably wouldn't have even seen Zack Wheeler go as deep as he did if they had a pitcher that can come out of the bullpen and be a long reliever, be a long inning guy. I really do believe that, especially with the rain delay and how he was ugly and sloppy throughout, and it just wasn't the best form of Zack Wheeler. You probably would have went in another direction. Do I love bringing in Connor Brogdon? Absolutely not. And I know maybe you could have went lefty with Jose Alvarado, but they wanted to try Connor Brogdon. And this goes back to one of the things I always like to discuss, where Connor Brogdon just came off of his strongest outing where he went 2 innings. He gave us some nice velocity. It was high, right? High 90s, and it was special. And then with a blink of an eye, here we are. He's getting shelled, and he can't help out Zack Wheeler. Did Joe Girardi need to take out Wheeler? Maybe not. Probably not. This is a different scenario because he was only at 97 pitches compared to the last time this happened. He was at 114 in the 8th inning. So I totally understand how this is different from the last time that we discussed this. With that, though, velocity did dip. And I did hear Joe, though, really stress the concern of the long term with him, and the All-Star break is coming up. I just think with where the schedule is now, and I am a believer in not running guys into the ground. You look at the trajectory of how many innings that he's going to pitch if he stays on this path, and it absolutely is a lot, and you're thinking of the long-term health of Zack Wheeler, and that's why I had no issue with yanking him in the 8th inning after 114 pitches in the last game. But tonight, it is different. All-Star break coming up. Only 5 2/3, 97 pitches. Probably had another one in him, even with the velocity dip. I'll take my chances with that over going to Connor Brogdon. But Joe Girardi went in the other direction. I think you got to find that balance. Sometimes you baby him too much, and then other times you don't want to run him into the ground. So where's the proper balance? In tonight's effort, I believe Joe went way too strong on the babying side of things, which makes me feel a tad uncomfortable. With that said, though, there is an element here of, bullpen, can you do anything? Sometimes you got to have your aces back. Sometimes you got to help your teammates. How many times do we see our teammates pick one another up? Hey, we left a couple guys stranded. Maybe we can bet on a reliever to close the door. Ranger Suarez has done it a couple of times. But other than that, it's not like you really have any belief in anybody. Sometimes I got to look at Connor Brogdon where it's like, dude, perform. Be better. Not every time is it 1,000% just on the manager. Sometimes it's, you are paid to be a bullpen piece. You are paid to do a job. You are supposed to come in with a few guys on and execute one out to get out of the inning and then get your team going in the next inning, right? Like, that is what your job is. So at some point, Connor, be better. Be better. So it starts with the error, which then has unearned runs all over the board. And from there, Zack Wheeler not his sharpest. And from there, sixth inning, you actually make some noise. So it's a 5-0 game. JT Realmuto gets a single. Bryce Harper ropes one down the right field side, which scores JT. Nice base running by him. Andrew McCutchen, my guy, stays hot, hits his 15th homer of the season, and now it's 5-3. Alec Bohm puts one in play, and because of a horrendous slide, he makes the third out at second base when it could have been second and third with more opportunities to cash in. Could have been another moment which maybe would have sparked the Phillies to score more runs. Who knows? 5-3 instead of, 5-4, 5-5, maybe even 6-5 Phillies instead of 5-3. That is a game-changing moment of the tilt. Didi Gregorius screws up early on. Now you have to fight back, and you're giving life to a team that's practically dead in the water with a player like Zack Wheeler on the mound. It's just totally unacceptable. Then you're finally making some noise and creating some offense because, let's be realistic, they absolutely did struggle against Mills throughout, and it made me laugh in such an upsetting way because there's no way that should have happened, and it did. So finally you crack into this Cubs team, and you shoot yourself in the foot once again. Now, just like I mentioned Connor Brogdon being able to help out his teammate, there is an element to me where I look at Zack Wheeler, and I'm just looking at this particular moment. I know what Zack Wheeler has been all year. Zack Wheeler is the farthest thing from the problem with this organization, just like I talk about with Bryce Harper all the time. So I know that Zack Wheeler is not this big picture problem at all. But I just yelled at Connor Brogdon for not having his teammates back. You know, when Didi Gregorius does make that mistake, and you know he's coming back from injury, it would be nice to maybe put away a guy, or it would be nice to get that contact that you need. It wasn't the contact that he needed, those bloopers, those singles. It wasn't the contact that he needed. He needed to get the contact that resulted in a ground ball, which then could result in the inning being over. So, you know, not having Didi Gregorius back is something that I also look at as well. Now, I got tweeted at throughout the game, and I've been pretty hard on Aaron Nola, right? And I said it seems like his pitch count's rising and his strikeout numbers are rising. And there was a correlation there, very focused on the strikeout numbers. Maybe pitching to contact more is something that I would like to do if I'm Aaron Nola. So someone tweets at me, Brodes, you yell at Aaron Nola all the time, saying that he needs to pitch to contact right now a little bit more. Yet here's Zack Wheeler pitching to contact, and it's resulting into singles, and you're not happy with it. I'm not mad at Zack Wheeler's pitches fully that resulted in singles. Some of them were okay. Some of them maybe he needed to be a little bit better. He was not where he needed to be fully, but I understand that it wasn't the most egregious pitches in the world either. I wasn't mad 1,000% at Zack Wheeler. What I'm mad at is how we just look at singles as nothing. Oh, well, who cares? It was only 4 or 5 singles. You're down 5-0! Why does it matter how? Doesn't matter how. If you win the World Series in Game 7 by hitting 0 home runs and having 12 singles and you score, I don't know, a handful of runs, you're racking up runs that way, do you not win the championship because they're singles? That's my problem here, is the way that you're thinking about this and the way that the Cubs scored. Well, you know, they scored that way, so, because they scored that way, Well, I look at it as, I don't give a fuck how they scored. I don't give a fuck. They scored. That's what I care about. So, you know, you don't have to give me a whole speech about exit velocity and how a higher exit velocity means the batting average is higher expected. I'm with you. I got it. I value exit velocity. I value analytics. I do. I think it matters. We are going to an extreme, though, which makes me a bit uncomfortable. So, yeah, Alec Bohm with that slide, by the way, you look at the replay. I know some thought maybe there wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. I thought that there was so much evidence to overturn it. As he slid, he went through the bag, and then his thumb ended up getting swiped on the tag, and it just can't happen. And I know that Alec Bohm had made a nice play defensively in this game, charging the baseball, setting his feet, picking up the ball with his bare hand as it's on the grass and making a throw, which is, important. And he's had some nice catches over at third base, but a lot of fundamental, I guess. Maybe not mental, but I guess you could tie fundamental and mental together with the game of baseball because, when you lack fundamentals, it's because you're not mentally engaged and mentally prepared and properly analyzing the situations and putting yourself in the moments. I mean, it's baseball 101 that we learned when we're 3 years old. Know what you're going to do with the ball when you get the ball and be ready at the start of every pitch. Once you see the pitcher being in the windup, okay, you make sure you're ready. You get a little hop in your step and you're prepared for the ball to come your way as the delivery occurs. So when the moment happens, you're ready to rock and roll. And with Alec Bohm, there's so many fundamental and mental mistakes that I can't get over it. Even though he had 2 hits today and a walk, there's something about Alec Bohm, and I don't want to hear that he's too young and he still needs all this time to learn. I'm understanding of growth in sports. We've been through this with the Sixers. We've been through this with the Flyers. We've been through this with some Eagles players. I understand how sports works. I've been around the block long enough. I also see plenty of individuals just thrive and dominate and cruise. And guess what? I don't love what I see out of Alec Bohm. I don't think it's a fixable thing with him. I just feel this is who he is, and that bothers me. I don't know if it's fixable. My gut tells me that there's a lot in his game that it's just who he is. You take the good with the bad, and I don't know if the bad of Alec Bohm outweighs the good of Alec Bohm. The power numbers still stink. The defense stinks. The ability to slide stinks. The 241 batting average or wherever he's sitting at right now, I'm sorry, that's not cutting it for me. So, that's where I'm at with Alec Bohm. I'm clearly frustrated with him for sure. I think tomorrow's a huge game, like an actual monstrous game. We talked about heading into Boston. When you win the first 2 games of this Cubs series, knowing what you did to San Diego at home, if you don't come out winning this series 3 of 4, that's terrible. I mean, that's flat out awful. I wouldn't be shocked considering that's where this team is. I'm a little stunned that you lose with Zack Wheeler on the mound. You thought it would almost be an automatic, a no-brainer that they come out victorious with just how fantastic he's pitched all season long. But you split this series after the way it started, and you go into Boston that way, and you're looking at All-Star break with that type of vibe, considering what it could have been. This is what it is. It's the same thing with the New York Mets. You should have won 4 games against the New York Mets the last time you saw them, with the doubleheader and then the 2 games after that on separate days. But instead, you come away with the split. And normally, you would probably think about a division-leading team in the New York Mets going on the road to see them in Citi Field. You'd be okay with the split. It could be a lot worse. But then you see the context, and you shot yourself in the foot. That's what this team does. They keep you involved just enough to make you feel like there's something there, but there really isn't. And then internally, they blow up, and they cost themselves so many wins and so many runs and so many problems because of themselves internally. There's been this whole breakdown of how they've had one of the hardest schedules in all of baseball in the first half, and they have one of the easiest schedules in the second half. And my feeling on that is, when you watch this team play, how many times do we analyze after the game and go, the other team is just flat out better? A handful. When they went to the Dodgers, when they went to San Francisco, those are the times where you look at them and go, okay, you know what, the opposing team is just better. And if you go 1-2 against the Dodgers in LA, that's probably realistic. You're just losing to a better team. How many times do we say, what the hell is this team doing? They should have won that game. They annihilated this team until the bullpen got destroyed, until they couldn't hold on to the lead. Their offense fell asleep. They weren't facing Jacob deGrom. They're facing an opposing team's 5th pitcher, and they can't get the timely hits. They're leaving guys in runners in scoring position all the time. It's that more than it is, well, they just got overpowered by better talent. So when I look at this team, their opponents, while sure, I get it. Playing easier opponents is going to open up the door and open up the window for possibly better success opportunities. I look at this as more of a problem with the Phillies this year more than anything else in the world. And I do want to go back to that Joe thing, though, because, I don't think it's an easy decision for Joe Girardi to make with Zack Wheeler. I probably would have kept him in to see if he could have finished the inning there, even though his velocity was dipping a bit. And knowing the alternative, though, and knowing where the game was, I probably would not have wanted to go to any of my bullpen pieces to try and keep the game there. I would have given Zack Wheeler one more opportunity. I thought Jim Salisbury asked a perfect question, not trying to be a wise guy or not, but is one more batter really going to affect the long term of Zack Wheeler? Now, of course, you can use that theory every game, and then by the end of it, well, one more batter turns into 5,000 more batters because of, well, what if that batter gets on, and then you go to another batter, and that happens in so many outings. So eventually that's going to snowball into more than just one batter. But tonight, just looking at it tonight, it's tough. I'm not saying it's easy. You see the velocity dip, and as a manager, you automatically think, okay, it's time to get him out there. And as he was walking up to the mound, he instantly pointed to the dugout, so it was a no-brainer. There was going to be no argument. There was going to be no sucking Joe into keeping him out there. It was, this is what's happening. You don't have a decision, Zack Wheeler. I don't care how frustrated you get or how upset you are with it. This is reality of the situation. I'm not saying it's easy, but I probably would have kept Zack Wheeler in there just for one more to see what would have happened. And from there, I would have made an adjustment and would have went to Connor Brogdon or Jose Alvarado with the lefty. That was one of my first thoughts as well, is why don't they go in that direction? But, Jose Alvarado, I'm not sitting here claiming I got a bunch of faith in the world in that option either. One option that I do have a lot of faith in is DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on any basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out, insight credits, restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, you know the drill. We are going to head over to the Anytime Hotline. I'm going to answer some of the text messages before we get to the phone calls. First here says, hey, Brodes, first time texting the Anytime Hotline. Feels like we've had a couple of those over the last few days. Love the show and everything you do. Thank you so much. Do you think the issues this season for the Phillies are more about Girardi being told what moves to make based on analytics or the team's errors and the bullpen? This is Adam from Walnutport, PA. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I really do. I don't know what the analytics are telling Joe, because I know Dave Dombrowski's an older school guy, and he even stated when he first got here that there's going to be a mix of analytics and old school, but we also know how much money was poured into the analytical department during the Matt Klentak era with John Middleton, so it's somewhat conflicting what you just bought yourself into, and now you're automatically changing it into another area. Maybe not changing it too much, tweaking it, I should say, maybe for the best or maybe for the worst. We don't truly know because we don't have the data and information on how much they are absolutely assessing and utilizing. But I just think it's a combination of everything. Joe Girardi's decision-making has been poor, whether he's being forced to do certain things out there or whether he's making those decisions on his own, or it's both. Maybe some decisions he's making purely out of gut and they've completely backfired, while you package that together with some of the things he's told to do based off of numbers and they have backfired as well. On top of that, the defense has just been one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life. And what else did you mention? The bullpen. When you pile all of that together, bad managing, bad errors, and bad bullpen, you get this. I guess you could almost make the argument, which is why this is where the franchise is, that they're overachieving. that they're overachieving being a couple games under 500 with all of the mistakes that they make night in and night out. And I think it perfectly describes Philadelphia Phillies baseball. Just enough to make you believe that they're close and they're not too far away, and all they need is to fix the bullpen and fix that. Well, that's a lot of fixes, by the way. Getting a competent bullpen and fixing sloppy defense and maybe adding a pitcher that's not Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez in your right. Like, that's a lot of moves. You don't just snap your fingers and acquire all of that talent. And by the way, all of the talent that you pick up instantly hit. You're going to take flyers on certain guys. Some guys are going to pan out, some aren't, and it feels like this season, basically every flyer you put out there has somewhat backfired to some degree, right? Chase Anderson, Matt Moore, those guys both stink. The Alvarado thing, I don't know. I mean, just based off of last year, he has moments that are fine, and then he also has egregious ones. Like just a few weeks ago or days ago or whatever, a couple series ago, people were screaming to put Alvarado into the closing role because he put together a few handful of games that were just magnificent. The problem is, well, there's going to be some really ugly moments as well, and that's just inevitable with Jose Alvarado. But yeah, I mean, it's just a combination of everything, Adam. It really is. It's hard to put my finger on just one thing. When the team is very flawed in a lot of different spots, you get this as the result. Looks like this individual did not leave a name or where they were from, but just pretty simple here. Wrong night for an off game for Wheeler. Ouch. Yeah, definitely. And I wonder if knowing this is the last time he's going to get on the bump before the All-Star break had anything to do with it. But Zack Wheeler's a pro's pro, and he seems pretty focused and determined on his craft, where I don't think that would get too much to him. He's also a part of the All-Star game weekend, which I feel maybe it would happen to players who aren't going to attend, because now you're like, okay, let me think about my time with my family. Let me think about seeing my loved ones. Let me see my wife, my significant other, my child, my children. You start getting into that, and that is kind of on your mind. So if you're part of the All-Star weekend, you don't think of it fully as the same style of break where you get that mental that mental time to relax, if you will. So, yeah, I don't know what it was for Zack Wheeler, but it was a bad timing for it, if you will, and it puts pressure on Zach Eflin to deliver a very strong game. By the way, you didn't even have Javier Baez in the lineup for the Cubs today, which was a little disappointing because I wanted to see Wheeler versus Baez, but I guess if after seeing the game and knowing what went down and the hindsight involved, maybe it was for the best because more moonshots were probably going to be prepared. A couple more homers might have been in his bag because he's just been crushing the baseball all series long. And he's a fun-ass watch, so it's always disappointing when a player like that is not in the lineup. I think I saw something about his thumb was in play. He had a thumb problem, so that held him off the game. It was a late thing that I saw before the first pitch. So hopefully he's all okay. I don't know if his status is all good for tomorrow's game or not, but it's definitely a crucial one for the Phillies. And okay, let's go to the phone call section here and take a call.
What's up, Brodes? I'm at the Phillies lose 8-3 to the Cubs. It was a weird game. Zack Wheeler, I don't think he pitched really bad at all. I mean, he wasn't great, but there's a lot of bloopers. There was a rain delay in there, but it was weird. And their pitcher, Alex Mills, he was throwing 65, 60 at times. He was weird. And Harper got a double, and then McCutchen got a homer after that. But the offense was quiet, but it wasn't a great night, but hopefully they can win the series tomorrow and head to Boston on a high note.
Yeah, they better win tomorrow. I'm going to be extremely pissed off, okay? Like, I'm going to lose my damn mind if this team falls tomorrow and they really do blow this thing where they could have just won another series, take it one series at a time. All you can ask for is win the series. You're not going to sweep every team. You're not going to absolutely annihilate every single team. Things are totally going to happen where you grind one out, but winning series is so important. And when you set yourself up for a successful spot and you fall flat on your face, especially where the Phillies are right now with the NL East, I mean, it's just totally unacceptable if they lose. Now, if we look at the standings just real quick, because I know that the Brewers and the Mets had a doubleheader, and they split that doubleheader. The Phillies, I told you how much things changed. Now they're in 4th place in the division when they were in 2nd place prior to today. They're 41-43. They're tied with the Washington Nationals. The Braves are now 42-44, and everyone is basically 4.5 games back from the New York Mets. But yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy what we are witnessing with this damn team. And I don't know how much longer I could take it, but I'm grinding as much as I possibly can. Gene Segura went 0 for 4. Rhys Hoskins went 0 for 4, and Jankowski is playing over Odubel Herrera. So a few days ago, I tweeted, I can't believe they're sitting Odubel after he hit a home run. It's the same thing we saw with Rhys Hoskins just a few games ago where he had a homer, got sat, and it made no sense because Rhys Hoskins is a very streaky guy. Odubel, the same thing. But I did not hear Joe Girardi mention that Odubel Herrera was banged up, so I went off about how this makes no sense, and please somebody explain the logic for me. But now it does have some context behind it, and he's nursing some sort of, minor injury, nothing major, but enough to keep him out of the lineup for a few days to get him back on track, to get him as healthy as possible. But after he hits the home run, if he's banged up, and there's nothing you can do about it. I just personally hate watching players like Luke Williams and Jankowski and players like that get way too much time. A walk-off homer by Luke Williams, great story, and it's awesome in the moment. I'm not saying I hate these guys. There's role players. Not every player is Bryce Harper, Nolan Arenado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Javier Baez, Ronald Acuna Jr., Freddie Freeman, Juan Soto. Not everybody's that player. You have your lesser talent. I just don't like when your lesser talent plays too much and you see too much of their faces. And sometimes with the Phillies, I do feel like I see them way too many damn times for my liking. That's just my honest opinion. So with that said, let's see how tomorrow shapes up. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.